Every pasta dish explained. The first one is spaghetti carbonara. Carbonara is a Roman pasta dish built on 4 ingredients: spaghetti, eggs, pecorino romano, and guanciale, which is cured pork cheek. No cream. No shortcuts. The sauce comes entirely from fat, protein, and heat. The guanciale renders in the pan first, releasing a rich salty fat that coats everything it touches. The eggs and cheese get whisked into a thick pale mixture separately. Then comes the critical moment. Hot pasta goes in, the pan comes off the heat, and the egg mixture folds through. Residual warmth cooks the eggs just enough to turn them silky without scrambling them. You get something that feels indulgent but weighs almost nothing. Creamy without cream. Rich without heaviness. Carbonara is not a recipe. It is a lesson in control disguised as dinner. Cacio e pepe. Cacio e pepe translates directly to cheese and pepper. That is the entire dish. 2 ingredients, plus pasta and pasta water, and nothing else. It sounds too simple to be worth explaining. That is exactly what makes it dangerous. The pepper goes into a dry pan first, toasted until it blooms and turns fragrant. The cheese, always pecorino romano, gets grated finely and mixed with starchy pasta water into a loose paste. When the pasta goes in, more water gets added slowly while everything gets tossed constantly. The starch binds the fat from the cheese into something smooth and glossy. Get the temperature wrong and the cheese clumps. Too much water and it turns soupy. The margin between perfect and ruined is about 30 seconds. 3 ingredients. 0 room for distraction. Bolognese. Bolognese is a meat sauce from Bologna, a city in northern Italy. It is slow-cooked, deeply layered, and built over hours rather than minutes. The version most people grow up eating, spooned from a jar, shares almost nothing with the real thing. The base starts with finely chopped onion, carrot, and celery, cooked down in butter until soft. Ground beef goes in next, browned until every trace of moisture cooks off. Then comes white wine, whole milk, and a modest amount of tomato. Not a flood of it, just enough to add depth without turning it into a tomato sauce. From there, it simmers. 30 minutes produces something edible. 3 hours produces something else entirely. The fat, the meat, and the liquid gradually meld into a texture that coats pasta rather than sitting on top of it. Real bolognese cannot be rushed. That is the whole point. Amatriciana. Amatriciana comes from Amatrice, a small mountain town northeast of Rome. It is one of the oldest pasta sauces in Italian cooking, and Romans treat it less like a recipe and more like a birthright. The foundation is guanciale, the same cured pork cheek used in carbonara, rendered until the fat runs clear and the edges crisp. Tomatoes go in next, crushed and left to reduce into something thick and concentrated. Dried chili adds a quiet heat that sits in the background rather than announcing itself. Pecorino romano gets grated over the top at the end, sharp and salty against the sweetness of the tomato. The dish looks simple on paper, but the balance between fat, acid, and heat is what separates a good version from a memorable one. Amatriciana did not come from a restaurant. It came from a hillside, and it remembers where it started. Lasagne. Lasagne is pasta built in layers. Flat sheets of dough stacked with meat sauce, bechamel, and cheese, then baked until everything fuses into a single structure. It is one of the oldest pasta dishes in existence, with roots tracing back to ancient Rome. The meat sauce goes down first, followed by pasta, then bechamel, a white sauce made from butter, flour, and milk. That sequence repeats layer by layer until the dish is full. The top gets blanketed in bechamel and Parmigiano Reggiano before going into a hot oven. During baking, the layers compress, the sauces seep into the dough, and the edges crisp while the center stays molten and soft. You cut into it, and everything holds its shape for just a moment before giving way. Lasagne is not a pasta dish. It is a building that happens to be edible. Pesto Genovese. Pesto Genovese comes from Genoa, a coastal city in northwest Italy, and it is one of the few pasta sauces that never touches heat. Fresh basil, pine nuts, garlic, pecorino romano, Parmigiano Reggiano, and olive oil. That is the complete list. Traditionally, everything gets ground in a marble mortar with a wooden pestle. The slow circular motion bruises the basil rather than cutting it, releasing the oils gently and keeping the color vivid. A blender works faster, but the heat from the blades dulls the green and flattens the flavor. The sauce gets stirred through warm pasta at the very last moment. Never return to the stove. Direct heat turns basil brown and strips out everything delicate. What you taste is grassy, herbal, and clean. Nothing cooked, nothing reduced. Pesto is the rare sauce that asks you to leave it alone. Aglio e olio. Aglio e olio means garlic and oil. Those are the two ingredients the dish is named after, and they are genuinely almost the entire recipe. Spaghetti, garlic, olive oil, dried chili flakes, and fresh parsley. Nothing else qualifies as essential. The garlic goes into cold olive oil first, then the heat rises slowly. Too fast and the garlic burns, turning bitter and sharp. Too slow and it never develops color or flavor. The window where it turns golden, nutty, and fragrant lasts about 45 seconds. Pasta water goes in next, emulsifying with the oil into something loose and glossy that clings to every strand. Chili adds warmth. Parsley cuts through. Then it is done. No sauce, no protein, nothing hidden underneath. Aglio e olio is the dish you make when the kitchen is nearly empty, and it is somehow always exactly enough. Arrabbiata. Arrabbiata means angry in Italian. The name is not a metaphor. It refers directly to the dried chili that defines the sauce, and in a proper version that heat is not a background note. It is the entire point. The base is simple. Garlic goes into hot olive oil and colors quickly. Crushed tomatoes follow, along with a generous amount of dried chili, far more than most people expect. The sauce reduces fast over high heat, staying bright and sharp rather than mellow. No meat, no cream, no cheese at the end. Nothing softens it. What lands on the plate is vivid, aggressive, and unapologetic. The tomato carries acidity. The garlic adds depth. The heat builds slowly at the back of the throat and keeps building long after the fork is down. Some sauces comfort. Arrabbiata challenges you to keep eating. Pasta al limone. Pasta al limone is a southern Italian dish built around one ingredient most people treat as a garnish. The lemon is not a finishing touch here. It is the foundation the entire dish is constructed around. Butter melts over gentle heat. Lemon zest goes in first, releasing its oils into the fat and filling the kitchen with something floral and sharp. Fresh lemon juice follows, then starchy pasta water, pulling everything into a thin, bright sauce. The pasta finishes cooking directly in that liquid, absorbing the citrus as it thickens around each strand. Parmigiano Reggiano goes in at the end, adding just enough richness to round out the acidity without dulling it. You taste something clean and vivid, light even when the portion is generous. Most dishes comfort through richness. This one does it through brightness. Puttanesca. Puttanesca is a Neapolitan pasta sauce built almost entirely from preserved ingredients. Canned tomatoes, anchovies, olives, capers, garlic, and chili. Nothing fresh is required, which is how it earned its reputation as something you make when the pantry is nearly empty, but appetite is not. The anchovies go into hot olive oil first and dissolve within a minute, leaving a deep savory base with no fishy taste whatsoever. Garlic follows, then crushed tomatoes, olives, and capers. The sauce comes together in under 20 minutes and does not benefit from longer cooking. The ingredients are already concentrated. More time only muddies them. What arrives at the table is bold and layered. Salty, briny, acidic, and faintly spiced all at once. Every element pulls in a different direction, yet the result holds together completely. Puttanesca proves that a great sauce needs not freshness, just the right ingredients. Fettuccine Alfredo. Fettuccine Alfredo was created in Rome in the early 1900s by a restaurant owner named Alfredo Di Lelio. The original had 3 ingredients: fettuccine, butter, and Parmigiano Reggiano, rich, simple, and completely of its place. Then it traveled to America. Hollywood actors carried it back across the Atlantic in the 1920s, and American kitchens rebuilt it into something heavier. Cream entered, then chicken, then garlic powder and bottled sauce on supermarket shelves. The Roman original works through technique alone. Hot pasta gets tossed with cold butter and finely grated cheese until the two bind into a glossy, smooth coating. No liquid, no shortcuts. Friction and heat do everything. What Rome made was quiet and precise. What the world built in its place was louder and far simpler to produce. Alfredo is the story of a dish that left home and never quite made it back. Pasta e fagioli. Pasta e fagioli means pasta and beans. The name describes the dish so completely that there is almost nothing left to explain. Almost. It originated as peasant food in rural Italy, built from whatever was cheapest and most available: dried beans, small pasta, aromatics, and water. No meat, no special technique, no refinement. Just the kind of cooking that exists because people needed to eat. The beans go in first, simmered with garlic, rosemary, and tomato until completely soft. A portion gets mashed back into the pot, thickening the broth into something between a soup and a stew. Small pasta cooks directly in that liquid, absorbing the starchy herbal base as it softens. What you end up with is dense, filling, and deeply savory. Nothing elegant about it. Nothing needs to be. The oldest food is rarely the most complicated. It just had more time to get it right.